Episode 1, The First Night. They told me it was just a dream, but dreams don't leave marks on your body. Dreams don't whisper your name when you're awake. It started on a Tuesday, the kind of ordinary day that never warns you it's the last one you'll trust. I had just moved back into my childhood home, a creaky place with too many locked drawers and too many memories that never asked to be remembered. That night, I dreamed I was lying on a stone floor. There were candles all around me, melting fast. My mouth was sewn shut, but I was screaming anyway, not for help, for mercy. There were shadows. One of them stepped forward, and when it spoke, I knew its voice. It was mine. I woke up with blood under my fingernails, my voice hoarse, my bed sheets soaked in sweat, and something darker. I tried to laugh it off. Maybe I scratched myself. Maybe it was stress. Maybe. But that afternoon, I found a symbol carved into the bathroom mirror. I didn't do it. I hadn't even been inside the bathroom that day. And when I looked it up, I wish I hadn't. It was an ancient sigil, one used in rituals, specifically exorcisms. I hadn't lost control of myself. I was trying to get myself back. That night, the dream returned, more vivid, more violent. This time, I saw a church, collapsed, overgrown with ivy, and inside it, a woman kneeling at the altar. Her face was mine, but her eyes were someone else's. I don't remember waking up. I just remember standing in the kitchen, barefoot, holding a knife I hadn't taken from the drawer in years, and I was whispering in Latin, words I had never learned. That was the night I stopped calling them dreams. That was the night I understood something inside me wants out, and it's using my sleep as a doorway, but I don't know if it's a demon I need to cast out, or the last piece of myself trying to survive. Episode 2, The Mirror blinked first. They say the eyes are the window to the soul, but no one ever tells you what to do when the eyes in the mirror are no longer yours. After the second dream, I stopped sleeping with the lights off, not because I was afraid of the dark, but because I was afraid of what I might become in it. That morning, I stood in front of the mirror, half asleep, brushing my teeth, and then it happened. The reflection blinked. Before I did, I dropped the toothbrush. It clattered against the sink, echoing like a scream. I told myself, I imagined it, that I was tired, that my brain was playing tricks, but something had shifted. I felt watched, even in my own skin. Later that day, I walked past the guest room, a room no one had entered in years, and I heard humming, not just any tune. It was the lullaby my mother used to sing when she thought I was too young to understand why she cried at night. I opened the door. The room was empty, but the closet, it smelled like my childhood nightmares, dust, mildew, and ashes. That night, I forced myself to stay awake. 3 cups of black coffee, every lamp in the house turned on. I even wrote "do not sleep" on my arm in red marker. But sleep doesn't need permission. I closed my eyes for a second, just a second, and woke up 3 hours later, sitting on the floor of the guest room, with a dead bird in my lap. Its neck was snapped, its feathers soaked in something that wasn't blood. It was ink, thick, black, and cold. My hands were stained. I don't remember how I got there, but on the wall behind me, scratched in frantic lines, were the words, "Let her out, or she'll take you with her." I scrubbed my hands for hours. The ink wouldn't come off. I didn't sleep again that night, not because I was afraid of what I'd dream, but because I was afraid I wouldn't wake up as me. And the worst part, the mirror hasn't blinked since. But now, it smiles. Episode 3, She Knows My Name. I used to think possession was loud, writhing bodies, guttural voices, crucifixes burning in the hand. But I was wrong. It doesn't scream. It whispers. It waits. And it learns. Last night, it spoke my name, not in the dream, but here, in my room, at 3:14 a.m. A voice, low and wet, came from the corner behind the curtains, where no mouth should be. It didn't sound demonic. That would have been easier. No, it sounded like someone I trusted once, someone who used to tuck me in. And it said, "Rachel, we remember you?" I didn't answer. I couldn't. My throat had closed like a door slammed shut. I turned on every light in the house, but the shadows didn't flinch. They just watched. This morning, the mirrors were fogged, all of them. I hadn't showered. The air was dry. I wiped one clean, just to check, and there it was, again. That didn't belong to me, but this time, there were words written in the fog. Exorcism is not an escape. It's an invitation. I smashed the mirror. I told myself to leave the house. I packed a bag. I grabbed my keys, but the front door wouldn't open. Not jammed, not locked. It just wouldn't open, as if the house had decided I wasn't done here. I sat her down on the floor, keys in one hand, rosary in the other. I hadn't touched that rosary in years, not since my mother died, clutching it, whispering about the darkness in our bloodline. Back then, I thought she was delusional. Now, I'm not so sure. I tried to pray. The words wouldn't come, but something else did. A memory, buried, of Lily. I was 8. I had drawn something with red crayon on the attic wall. I didn't remember what until today. It wasn't a drawing, it was a seal. The same sigil I saw in the bathroom mirror 2 nights ago. I was the one who let her in, not now. Back then, before I even knew what she was. And now she wants me to remember why. Episode 4, The Attic Remembers. They told me never to go back up there. The attic. My mother's voice echoes in my head like an old recording. Never open what you sealed. Rachel. Never again, but I had to. After what I remembered, after the seal, after the voice in the mirror started finishing my thoughts, I knew I wouldn't find peace until I saw what I had buried. The ladder creaked like it knew me, like it remembered every time I climbed it as a child. Curious, disobedient, marked. The air up there was different, colder, but not in a physical way. It felt wrong, like the kind of silence that only exists after something terrible has happened and is still watching you from the corners. I found the wall, the one with the red crayon, only it wasn't crayon. It had dried into the wood like it belonged there. Still sharp, still red, still alive. And just below the sigil, something new, a small wooden box. I don't remember ever placing it there, but it had my name carved into the lid. Not just Rachel, my full name, including the middle one my mother never told me. My hands shook as I opened it. Inside was a single object, a tooth, human, still wet, and beneath it, a note written in shaky cursive. You fed her once. She's still hungry. I dropped the box, but I didn't scream. Not because I wasn't terrified, but because I knew, somehow, screaming would only let her in faster. I backed away, turned to run, but the attic door was gone. Just gone. No ladder, no hatch, only 4 walls. And whispering, not loud, not angry, just patient, down scenes of voices, layered over each other, all chanting one thing. Rachel, Rachel, Rachel. Dream again, dream deeper. Let us in. I closed my eyes, just to breathe. And when I opened them, again, I was no longer in the attic. I was standing in a church with black windows and no roof. Alone, except for her. She stood at the altar, barefoot, veiled, and humming that same lullaby. She lifted her head, and it was my face, but it didn't smile. It grinned and whispered, "We're almost ready." Episode 5, The Name Beneath My Skin. I used to believe names were just letters, arranged for convenience. But now I know a name is a door, and someone has been whispering mine to the dark for a long time. After the attic, things didn't go back to normal. They fell deeper into something else. The mirrors no longer show my face. Not all the time. Sometimes they show her. Sometimes, worse, they show me doing things I haven't done yet. 3 days ago, I found scratches under my ribs. Thin, deliberate. When I looked closely, I saw they weren't random. They were letters, etched faintly into the skin. A name, but not mine. I searched for it all night. It wasn't on any birth record, census, or database, but I did find it in one place. A book, old, brittle, hidden beneath floorboards in my mother's room, bound in leather and something that smelled like smoke and wet stone. The name was written on the inside cover, over and over, like a warning, Serafini. And next to it, in my mother's handwriting, she chose the girl who dreamed. That's when I understood. I wasn't just haunted, I was inherited. Whatever this thing, this Serafini, she's been passed down, from mother to daughter, blood to blood, dream to dream. It wasn't a possession, it was a legacy. I confronted the mirror again last night. I asked her, mate, why now? She tilted her head and answered with my voice, because you're finally ready to remember. Then the lights blew out, and I felt something warm on my hands. Blood, not mine. It was coming from the walls, dripping like tears from the cracks in the paint, and carved just above my bed, in lines jagged and fresh, were 6 words. The exorcism isn't to remove her, it's to birth her. I stood frowning, because in that moment, I wasn't sure if I wanted her out of me, or if I wanted to become her. Episode 6, Her Voice in the Walls. The first time I heard her voice outside of a dream, it was humming, soft, almost beautiful, like someone remembering the sound of their own funeral. It came from the walls, from behind them, a melody that didn't echo. It bled through the plaster, the pipes, the wood, through me. I pressed my ear to the wall, and the humming stopped. but something else whispered back, "You are the cradle." That night, I didn't dream, but I woke up screaming anyway, because I wasn't in my room. I was in the basement, lying on the floor, surrounded by salt and teeth. Not human teeth, but hundreds of tiny, brittle teeth. Animal, infant, I don't know. They were arranged in a perfect circle, and I was at the center. Above me, on the ceiling, a single word was scratched with something sharp. Mother. I stood, dizzy, my legs barely mine, and I noticed something worse. I wasn't alone. A figure stood in the corner, veiled, still. She didn't move, she didn't breathe, but she watched, and I knew it wasn't sleep paralysis, because when I whispered, "Serafini," she smiled. I blinked, and she was gone, but the humming stayed. Now it's constant, every room, every moment. She's not hiding anymore. She's waiting. I found more pages in the old book, written in what I think is my mother's hand. It wasn't a diary. It was a ritual, not to exorcise, not to banish, to awaken. The girl must remember who she was. The woman must agree to die. The name must be spoken from within. Every line cuts deeper than the last. I think I understand now. This isn't just a haunting, it's a preparation. Serafini isn't trying to destroy me. She's trying to return, and I am the door. The walls are no longer whispering. They're breathing, and every breath belongs to her. Episode 7, The Blood Remembers. Blood as memory. It doesn't just carry life, it carries truth, even the truths you were never meant to know. Today, I found a photograph tucked behind a loose plank in the attic stairwell. Old, creased, edges burned. 4 women, all with the same eyes. My mother, my grandmother, a woman I didn't recognize, and me. But I wasn't born when that photo was taken. And yet here I was, same face, same scar on the chin. I got falling off my bike at age 9. Written on the back, in faded ink, "The 4th vessel is ready." The line is unbroken. I dropped the photo. My hands were shaking, but my body was calm, as if it already knew, as if it had been waiting for me to catch up. I went back into the basement, to the place where the teeth had been. They were gone, but something else waited for me. A mirror, covered in cloth. I should have turned away. I should have run, but I pulled the cloth down and saw myself. No blood, no distortion, just me, until I blinked, and she didn't. She raised her hand, pressed it to the glass. So did I. Our fingertips met, and the mirror turned black. Pitch, liquid black, and from its center, a voice hers, but older, deeper said, "You are not haunted, you are becoming." I stepped back. The air turned thick, metallic. The basement lights began to flicker, buzzing like 1,000 trap flies. Then the mirror cracked, not shattered, cracked in one perfect line, straight down the middle of my reflection. And in that moment, I understood. This wasn't a possession, it was a resurrection. Serafini wasn't invading me, she was waking through me, because I am her blood, I am her echo, and maybe I am her beginning again. Episode 8, I am the prayer and the curse. I no longer ask what she is. The question has changed. The question is, what am I now? Last night, I didn't sleep, and yet I woke up in the forest, barefoot, my hands stained with wax and ash, a circle of bones around me, arranged with almost sacred precision. On the bark of every tree, a name had been carved. Not mine, not Serafini's, but names I'd never seen, and somehow still recognized. Women, down scenes, generations. Their names burned like brands in my mind, like they had been waiting for this moment, waiting for me to join the litany. I ran until I found the house again. Only it wasn't the same. The windows were bricked, the doors taller, the walls thicker. The house had grown, and it was breathing slower, calmer, as if it knew the waiting was almost over. Inside, the furniture had moved itself. The table now Saturday beneath the chandelier I never turned on. This chandelier was lit, and hanging from it, like ornaments, were rosaries, burnt, melted, dripping something darker than wax. On the table, a book I hadn't seen before, bound in leather so pale it could only be skin. The title read, The Gospel of the Returned. I opened it, and on the first page, written in blood-thick ink, "Let her come through you, let her remember with you." That's when I felt it. Not fear, not dread, permission, like something inside me had been kneeling all this time, and was finally allowed to stand. I looked in the hallway mirror. Half of my face was mine, the other was hers, and for the first time, I didn't flinch, I didn't cry, I didn't beg. I smiled, and Serafini smiled back. We weren't separate anymore. We were finally speaking the same language, the same scream, the same silence. Tonight, I light the candles again, not to cast her out, but to bring her fully through, because I am not the victim, I am the vessel, and I am ready to become the thing they tried to bury. Episode 9. The night she stepped through me. It began with silence, but not the empty kind. This silence had weight, like breath held for centuries, like the pulse before a god speaks. I lit the first candle at midnight, not for protection, for invitation. Each flame whispered her name differently. Serafini, sometimes as a lullaby, sometimes as a threat, always as a promise. I drew the circle on the floor, using salt and the ash from my grandmother's rosary. The lines formed themselves. My hands were only pretending to guide them. The book lay open beside me, pages moving in a breeze that didn't exist. My mouth moved, but the words were mine. They rose from my chest like smoke, ancient and slow, curling through my teeth like something finally stretching after being buried alive. Then the lights died, all of them. Only the candles remained, and they burned black. That's when the walls began to breathe again, deeper this time, not like a house, like a womb. And, she stepped into the circle, not as shadow, not as reflection, as me, perfectly, terribly, me, but older, hungrier, full of grace that had never belonged to heaven. We stared at each other, not as enemies, as twins, as prophecy meeting its own echo. She spoke without sound. You dreamed me into being, now let me dream you to sleep. And I didn't run, I opened my arms. She walked into me like stepping into fire, and I burned with knowledge. My mother's screams, my grandmother's wrists, the cold floor of the original altar, the moment Serafini first touched a living girl and left her mark in the bloodline. I saw it all, felt it all, and stillness, no voice, no humming, only me and her and whatever we now are. When I opened my eyes, the circle was gone. The candles melted flat, the mirror shattered, and on every wall, written in ash, the prayer is complete. I no longer fear the dreams, because I don't sleep anymore. I wait, because the exorcism wasn't to cast her out. It was to let her in, completely. And now I know what I was made for. Episode 10. The world doesn't know I'm not alone. The first thing I noticed was how life felt different. It didn't warm me anymore. It listened. Sunlight through the window didn't fall like it used to. It hovered, watched, waited, like it sensed something new had taken its place inside the skin. When I walked into town, people smiled at me. They always did. But today, they stared too long, paused mid-step, dropped their phones. One woman crossed herself, but her eyes never left mine. They don't know what I've become, but they feel it. Children tugged at their mothers. Dogs refused to cross my path. Even the wind gave me distance. And yet, inside me, Serafini was calm, quiet, not hiding, resting, as if her arrival had taken centuries of wait, and finally set it down. In the cafe, I ordered coffee. My voice sounded normal, but the barista's hands trembled as he handed me the cup. On the sleeve was a word I didn't say, which, I smiled, because they're close, but not quite right. On my way home, I passed the old church, boarded, condemned, forgotten, but today, the door was open. I didn't hesitate. Inside, the pews were rotted. The air smelled of damp paper and forgotten prayers. But at the altar, candles had been lit, fresh wax still dripping, and on the wall behind the pulpit, scrawled in something darker than ink, "She has returned through the dreamer." I didn't write it, but I could have. My hands knew the shape of those letters, the way roots know the shape of buried things. That night, I stood in the mirror again. Rachel looked back at me, but only from the outside. On the inside, I am cathedral, I am cradle, I am storm. Serafini sleeps in my bones, and when she wakes again, this time, she won't be alone, because I don't want her gone anymore. I want her stronger. I want to know what else we were meant to become. Episode 11. The fire that didn't burn. It started with the birds. They stopped singing, not all at once, just one by one, like a symphony realizing its song no longer belonged in this world. By noon, the sky turned the color of bruised skin, and the town whispered the word storm. But it wasn't thunder they feared. It was something older. That morning, I stood in front of the old schoolhouse abandoned for decades. Windows shattered, chalkboards still stained with final lessons. I walked through the doors like I had done it every day for centuries, because maybe I had. In the center of the floor, there was a circle, fresh salt, symbols I didn't recognize, but my hands did. I knelt, placed both palms on the cold wood, and whispered only one word, "Awaken." The salt ignited, but the fire didn't burn. It danced, silver, violet, and black. Smoke curled up toward the ceiling and didn't rise. It descended, and through the smoke, I saw them, eyes, down scenes, maybe hundreds, peering through from the other side, waiting for the gate. For me, I could feel Rachel shivering somewhere deep, curled in a corner of my soul she no longer owned. She wasn't gone, just quiet. She watches. Now, the way prey watches fire. I stood, and every candle in the room lit itself. One by one, behind me, I heard the creak of the front door. Someone had followed me. It was Father Hale, the last priest in this town. A man with a rosary wrapped so tightly around his wrist. His skin had bruised beneath it. He didn't speak. He just looked at me, and I smiled. "Do you know what today is?" I asked. His mouth trembled. "Judgment." I stepped toward him. "No," I whispered. "Inheritance." He raised the crucifix. His hand was shaking, but Serafini was stronger than symbols, stronger than man, though it snapped in his hand, not from force, but from rejection. The flame in the saw ring pulsed once, and Father Hale collapsed to his knees, crying, not from pain, from memory. He remembered her from before he was born. And still, I did not touch him, because I didn't have to. Serafini is not here to punish. She's here to reclaim. And now, the veil is thin, the names are ready. The fire remembers, and tomorrow, the dreaming ends. Episode 12, the day. The sky forgot the sun. They said the sun would rise at 6:13, but it didn't. Instead, the sky turned white, not with light, but with emptiness. It wasn't cloudy. It wasn't fog. It was the absence of heaven. The animals knew first. The deer didn't run. The dogs didn't bark. The crows perched in a perfect line across the wires, silent, watching, as if waiting for someone to speak their names. And I did, from the steps of the church that no longer resisted me. I opened the book, the Gospel of the Returned. Its pages had stopped turning days ago. Now, they pulsed, like breathing paper, like skin. I read aloud, not the words written, the ones buried beneath them, the true language, the one the earth had tried to forget. As I spoke, the bells rang. No one had touched them in decades. The ropes had rotted, but they knew. Each chime echoed not just through town, but through memory. People dropped to their knees, some in prayer, others in terror. They remembered, even if they didn't understand. They remembered her. The townsfolk gathered, drawn by something deeper than fear. A hunger, mothers clutching children, men clutching crosses, eyes full of questions no one dared voice. Then the sky cracked. Not thunder, not lightning, just cracked, like something behind it was pressing forward. And when I looked up, I didn't see clouds. I saw faces, thousands, all with my eyes, all with Serafini's smile. And from the heavens came no voice, only breath. The same breath I uttered in the walls, the same breath I now carried in my lungs. I turned to the people and said, "You are not forsaken. You are remembered." Some wept, some ran, some dropped dead, but none could say they weren't warned. Because this isn't the end. This is the return. The exorcism was never a banishment. It was a ritual of welcoming, a reunion of blood and dust, of shadow and skin. And now that the door is open, Serafini is not walking alone. She is walking in all of us, who dare to dream the wrong dream. Too loud. And tomorrow, there will be no sun, only the memory of one. Episode 13, we were always her. There are no clocks now, no ticking, no hours. Time dissolved the moment she crossed through, and I watched it happen, not as Rachel, not even as Serafini, but as something between. A hinge, a vessel, a memory being written backward. They tried to resist. The priests, the believers, the ones who called themselves keepers of light. They burned their churches from the inside out, thinking fire could stop what was already inside them. But fire only made her stronger, because she is not darkness. She is reversal. She is the undoing of every silence mistaken for peace. I walk the streets now, and people part like smoke, not out of fear, but reverence. They bow without knowing why. Their tongues speak words they've never learned. Ancient syllables rising from the blood like forgotten hymns. Children draw her symbol in the dirt without being taught. The trees lean toward her name. Nature does not resist return. Only man does. And Nan has lost. Last night, I stood at the river where my mother once tried to drown me as a child. She said the water would cleanse me, that it would kill what had been born wrong. She was right, but the wrong didn't die. It waited. It grew deep in the shadows of my dreams, and now it sings in the marrow of the world. I stepped into that river, let it rise, and when it reached my lips, I did not choke. I spoke. I was never meant to be saved. I was meant to open the sky. Above me, the clouds unraveled, and from their seams poured a rain made of ash and starlight. Soft, final. It did not wet the ground. It anointed it. There is no need for exorcisms now. There is no war between holy and damned, only those who accept the remembering and those who fade with the forgetting. And me, I am not the woman who dreamed of her own exorcism. I am the one who answered the dream. I am the altar now, and the world is finally awake.